Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I told you I would give you a video talking about Theros Beyond Death and Zendikar Rising and some other weird inverted EV and EV peculiarities in the market that I see right now. So this is that video, but first we're going to have to lay some kind of theoretical groundwork so we all understand what we're talking about here. So let's say that I had 3 expansions, sets 1, 2, and 3, and the draft boxes for those expansions respectively sold for $50, $100, and $200, and all 3 expansions had an expected value of their draft boxes of $100. And now this would just be going by Dawn Glare's calculated TCG marketplace values. I like the marketplace values for more recent stuff as opposed to the mid values. Marketplace values, when the stuff is still relatively recent and still sells regularly, are probably better values because there's some kind of time average of actual sale prices. So it is the real prices that the market's actually moved at. So let's say you had these 3 products and they had these 3 draft box prices and they all had the same expected value of the cards inside the box. For each one, you could calculate this ratio that is the price to EV. And so for the first one, the price to EV is 0.5 because the price of the box is half of the value of the cards in it. And you would really like to buy this because you would be paying $50 for the box and you would be getting $100 worth of cards if you were to just rip open the box and if you could just magically sell all the singles right then with no market fees, transaction fees, shipping fees, or fraud. And so the second box, you would pay $100 for it, and it would have $100 of cards in it, so that ratio is 1. And the third box, you'd pay $200 for it. It would have $100 of cards in it, so the ratio would be 2. You'd be paying twice as much as what you get back. And so you can think about this and say, well, okay, so if the price to EV ratio is under 1, that's good, and we would talk about that as a discount to EV. And if the price to EV ratio is 1, that's neutral because you're getting back exactly what you paid. And if the price to EV ratio is greater than 1, that's bad. It's a premium to EV. Now, you have to understand that you can almost never buy sealed boxes of cards at a discount to EV. It's very rare because obviously if you could do that, somebody who already has a very efficient operation of opening, sorting, listing for sale, and fulfilling orders, they will see that there is a discount to EV, so they will buy up boxes, bust them into singles, and sell them. And so it's rare to be able to buy to a discount of EV unless there's some kind of inefficiency going on in the market or there's some extenuating circumstances, say card stores are dumping a bunch of boxes because they're panicking for capital. So that arbitrage opportunity kind of prevents you from getting discounts to EV very often. And another note on this premium to EV, this is where the alligator mouth that Rudy talks about comes from. It's that as a set gets older, people will pay a bigger and bigger premium to EV for the sealed box because the sealed box itself is more rare and more sought after. And so that's why something like Stronghold, it has a draft box price. I just went out on eBay, found the cheapest one I could find. It was $62.50. And on Dawn Glare, the TCG market price EV for a average box of Stronghold is $11.50. So the price to EV ratio is 5.4. That means you are paying 5.4 times as much money for the box as you're getting in singles were you to open that box and sell all the singles. But this is the alligator mouth opening up as the future goes on, and that's what Rudy talks about a lot. That number you will expect to get higher and higher as you look backwards in time across sets. And so how does that affect Theros Beyond Death? Well, let's look at our 2020 era products. Okay, so in order that they were released, Eldraine, yes, Eldraine was 2019, but it was second half of 2019. It lived most of its standard life in 2020 and was subject to the events of 2020. Then Theros Beyond Death, Ikoria, Core 21, and Jumpstart. And so I've listed here the draft box prices off of TCG Player, the draft box EVs off of Dawn Glare, again at TCG market price, and the price to EV ratios. And so again, as you look backwards across these, you should expect that these price to EV ratios should get greater as you go backwards in time. And of course, if you zoom in like this to 5 consecutive products in 1 year, yeah, you'll see that they don't always exactly go in order, but they should be close and you shouldn't have big deviations. But you can see that Theros Beyond Death has a big deviation. So Eldraine has a price to EV ratio of 1.9, but then Theros is only 1. You're paying $106 to get $103 of EV. So this 1.0 ratio is, as we would say in data analysis, it is out of bed with the rest of these that are around it. And so you come here to Ikoria, it's arguable that maybe Ikoria is a little underpriced also, that maybe the draft box prices for Ikoria should be a little higher to pull up this ratio to be more in line with Throne of Eldraine and Core 21. And then Jumpstart also just way out of line, actual inverted EV. When you're less than 1 on this ratio, you have inverted EV. And like I said recently on the Friday Seal deals, Jumpstart at $83, you are paying $83 to get $97 of value. So why are you not buying this up as fast as you can? You should be. So this is the origin of where I think that Theros Beyond Death is underpriced in the market. Now, you will have products that had lower print runs. And so over long periods of time, you should expect that to translate into a higher price to EV value. And you should expect it to cause the price to EV value to get out of bed with the sets that were released around it. Another thing is sets that are just wildly popular. I mean, if you made this chart larger and you included every set, say from like 2018 through today, and you included all the master sets are going to be way out of bed with everything else because they're wildly popular, because they include reprints of the most powerful cards. So you kind of need to do these analyses like I've done here, where it's standard sets, except Jumpstart is not really a standard set, but I thought Jumpstart was interesting anyway because it's so out of bed. It has actual inverted EV. So this is why I think Theros Beyond Death is underpriced, and probably the price of the box needs to come up 30, 40, 50%. I know that sounds crazy, but a 30 or 40 or 50% increase on top of the current box price is 30 or 40 or $50. But to put it back in bed with these other standard sets that came out in 2020 with it, it would need that kind of increase in price. Or the EV of the cards inside the box would need to go down, which you don't really expect because these values are taken at TCG market price. This is what the cards are currently selling for. So people are happy to pay this price for the cards. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second is Zendikar Rising. And Zendikar Rising, it came out after Jumpstart, I believe. I think it was the next set after Jumpstart. In fact, when I was researching this, there was only a 2-week gap between Core 21 and Jumpstart coming out. And I think Zendikar Rising was the next one and was the first set to have set boxes distinguished from draft booster boxes. So if you go out on Dawnglare today and you look at the draft box price, that's this that's this $67 is the draft box EV on Dawnglare. And so what I've done is I've created this $77 number, and the number that I always use is that a set box has about 15% more rares and mythics. Most of the value of a set comes out of the rare and mythic slots. And so I've just kind of approximated that the set box EV for Zendikar Rising set box will be $77, which is about 15% more than this $67 for the draft box. And then I've gone out and I've looked on TCG Player, what are the current prices, and I've calculated the price to EV. Nothing looks weird here, right? And if you agree with my approximation that 15% is the correct premium to pay for a set box and that it should have about 15% more value, then you're probably not having any heartburn over these numbers. But what is in a Zendikar Rising draft box and a set box that is not accounted for here? And I'm sure some of you are screaming it at me. What is in there? It is the Zendikar Expeditions box topper. And Those are the box toppers of something like the 25 most popular and sometimes best lands ever printed in Magic's history. Ally fetch lands, enemy fetch lands, strip mine, wasteland, Tomb of Souls, a whole bunch of others. And that's not accounted for in these numbers. So when Dawnglare does their box EV of a Zendikar Rising draft box, they're not taking into account this guy, a $38 sealed Zendikar Rising Expedition box topper. So what if we do take that into account and we add $38 to both of these? And sorry, I didn't actually update this. When I first built this, my memory was that it was $40, but when I went and actually checked, it was $38. But when I've done these calculations, these actually take it as $38. So when you put that in, there's inverted EV today on Zendikar Rising draft and set boxes because of the presence of that Expedition box topper that Dawnglare is not taking into account when they figure up the price of the box. So that was the other thing. In my What Did I Buy in June 2022, I hinted that I thought there was about $20 of inverted EV in that Zendikar Rising set box that I bought. And I bought it at a pretty decent discount because I got it on a bonus buck sale. So I didn't pay 108, I paid like 97 or something. And it has a value of about 115 or so. So about $20 of inverted EV that's in there. Because that Expedition box topper, there's one in each of the draft and set boxes. There are two in the collector boxes. So those are the kind of things I've been thinking about recently with weird kind of inverted EV. Do you think I've done this right? I mean, it seems correct. I can't see any obvious errors. Obviously, the obvious errors that I saw, I corrected before I presented this. But this all seems correct to me, that there's inverted EV in Zendikar Rising draft and set boxes. There's inverted EV in Jumpstart. And that Theros Beyond Death's box price and thus price to EV ratios are out of bed with the other standard sets that came out in the same time period. So let me know what you think. Give me your comments on this. You guys always get me really thinking better about this stuff with your comments, and I appreciate it a lot. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.